this is the barrier you put down to keep
Yes.
them in? Okay, that's good. Stay back in case this guy's venomous. I don't know what I'm dealing with yet.
Okay, please be careful.
For years, Billy the Exterminator was one of television's most recognizable faces, known for handling dangerous animals and building a loyal fan base. But recently, shocking headlines and online rumors have left many people asking the same question. Is Billy the Exterminator finally behind bars? And is this really goodbye forever? Join us in this video as we take a closer look at the controversy, the legal troubles that have surrounded his name, and what actually happened behind the scenes. The truth may be very different from what many people believe today. The arrest that changed everything. For years, Billy seemed untouchable. He was the energetic exterminator viewers welcomed into their homes every week, the guy who could handle dangerous pests with confidence while keeping a smile on his face. But in 2012, that image took a serious hit. That year, Billy and his wife, Mary, found themselves in legal trouble after being arrested in Bossier Parish, Louisiana. Reports stated that authorities discovered the couple in possession of a synthetic substance that was drawing growing attention across the country. At the time, the substance existed in a legal gray area. Some states had already moved to ban it, while others were still deciding how to regulate it. Billy did not spend months fighting the charges. Instead, he pleaded guilty relatively quickly. The punishment itself was fairly minor. He was ordered to pay a $500 fine and complete community service. From a legal standpoint, it was far from a major criminal case. Compared to many celebrity scandals, the consequences were light, but court penalties and public perception are two completely different things. The real damage came from what the arrest meant for Billy's image. Reality television depends heavily on trust. Viewers are not just watching characters, they are watching real people. The audience builds a connection with those people and often feels like they know them personally. When an actor on a scripted show gets into trouble, the character they play can survive untouched. In reality television, that separation rarely exists. The person and the public image become one and the same. For Billy, that distinction disappeared almost overnight. The arrest instantly became part of his story. It was no longer possible for fans to see only the hard-working exterminator they had watched on television. Now, there was another headline attached to his name, and whether it seemed fair or not, it changed how some people viewed him. The situation also created a challenge for A&E. The network had spent years presenting Billy as a lovable, quirky family man who genuinely cared about his work and took pride in helping people. That image was central to the show's success. An arrest, even one involving a relatively minor substance charge, complicated that carefully built narrative. It introduced questions that networks generally prefer to avoid. Timing made matters even worse. This was not an old incident from before Billy became famous. The arrest happened while he was still closely connected to the show and actively in the public eye. As news of the case spread through local media and entertainment outlets, it became impossible to ignore. A&E suddenly faced an uncomfortable decision about how to move forward. From the outside, it appeared the network chose the safer route. Rather than publicly battling the controversy, they seemed to quietly distance themselves and avoid further attention. Still, the arrest alone may not have been enough to bring everything crashing down. Television networks have survived far bigger scandals involving their stars. What truly pushed the situation toward its breaking point was what happened afterward within the Bretherton family itself. The arrest was not the end of the story. It was only the spark that set everything else in motion. So, before the arrest, who was Billy? And how did he come to be known as Billy the Exterminator? Keep watching to find out. Before the fame, the making of Billy the Exterminator. Long before police reports, controversy, and headlines began following his name, Billy Bretherton was simply a young man from Louisiana, trying to find his place in the world. William Billy Bretherton was born on September 16, 1968, in Louisiana. He was raised by his parents, Big Bill and Donnie Bretherton, alongside his older brother, Ricky. Despite becoming one of the most recognizable faces in reality television, Billy has always been surprisingly private about his personal life. Unlike many television personalities who openly discuss their childhoods and family histories, Billy has rarely shared details about his early years. Much of his life before fame remains a mystery, known only to those closest to him. What is known is that Billy's future took a major turn when he was still a teenager. At just 19 years old, he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He joined the United States Air Force, looking for direction, discipline, and opportunity. Like many young people entering the military, Billy likely had no idea how important that decision would become years later. During the entrance testing process, something interesting stood out. The results showed that Billy had a natural aptitude for biology and entomology, the scientific study of insects. While it may not have seemed like a life-changing discovery at the time, it pointed him toward a field that would eventually make him famous. The Air Force provided specialized training that allowed Billy to build knowledge and skills in these areas. That training would later become one of the foundations of his entire career. While many people think of pest control as a simple job, Billy approached it with a level of expertise that set him apart from others in the industry. During his military service, Billy steadily worked his way up through the ranks. Eventually, he achieved the position of senior airman and was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada. The experience taught him discipline, problem-solving, and how to stay calm under pressure, qualities that would become valuable assets both in business and later on television. After completing his time in the military, Billy returned to Louisiana, ready to build something of his own. Instead of pursuing a traditional career path, he took a risk and entered the pest control business. He founded a company called Vexcon Animal and Pest Control, a decision that would completely change the course of his life. Starting a business is never easy, and Billy later revealed that his father believed in him enough to invest retirement savings into the company. It was a family gamble. Everyone in the Bretherton family played a role in helping the business succeed. Different family members handled different responsibilities, turning Vexon into more than just a company. It became a true family operation. Billy quickly became the face of the business. While others handled administrative tasks and daily operations, he was the one responding to some of the toughest calls. Dangerous animal removals, severe infestations, and situations most people wanted nothing to do with became part of his everyday routine. Whether it was snakes, raccoons, insects, or other troublesome creatures, Billy developed a reputation for handling jobs that seemed impossible. His energetic personality, unusual appearance, and fearless attitude made him stand out from competitors. Before long, people throughout Louisiana knew exactly who he was. What started as local recognition soon turned into something much bigger. Billy's growing reputation eventually caught the attention of television producers. In 2005, he was invited to appear on the popular reality series Dirty Jobs, hosted by Mike Rowe. The show highlighted workers who performed some of the toughest and least glamorous jobs in America, making Billy a perfect fit. His appearance left a strong impression. Television executives immediately recognized that Billy had something many reality stars spend years trying to develop: natural charisma. He was knowledgeable, entertaining, unpredictable, and completely comfortable being himself in front of a camera. Executives at A&E saw potential and began discussing the possibility of building an entire show around him and his family business. The idea was simple, but effective. Cameras would follow Billy and the Bretherton family as they tackled difficult pest control jobs while navigating the challenges of running a family-operated company. That concept eventually became a reality. The series was originally introduced under the title The Exterminators. As producers realized that Billy himself was the biggest attraction, the show was later rebranded as Billy the Exterminator. The new name placed him front and center, transforming him from a local business owner into a nationally recognized television personality. It was a remarkable rise. A former Air Force airman who had built a pest control company with his family's help was suddenly becoming one of reality television's most recognizable faces. Fans loved his unique style, his passion for the job, and the family dynamics that played out on screen. For a while, it seemed like Billy had built exactly the life he wanted. But as history would eventually show, the success that made him famous would also place him under a spotlight that never truly goes away. What turned this small-town exterminator into a television sensation nationwide. Stay tuned to find out. The show that turned Billy into a television star. By the time Billy the Exterminator reached television screens across America, Billy Bretherton was already well known throughout parts of Louisiana for his pest control work. But the show would take that local reputation and turn it into national fame almost overnight. Originally, the series was introduced under the name The Exterminators. As producers realized that Billy himself was the main attraction, the show was eventually renamed Billy the Exterminator. The new title reflected exactly what viewers were tuning in to see: Billy's larger-than-life personality and the unusual situations he faced every day on the job. The series aired on A&E and followed Billy's work as the owner of Vexcon Animal and Pest Control, a company based in Benton, Louisiana, serving the Shreveport-Bossier area. Each episode brought viewers into a different world of infestations, dangerous animal encounters, and unexpected challenges. One day, Billy might be removing a nest of aggressive wasps. The next, he could be dealing with snakes, raccoons, bats, rodents, or other creatures that had found their way into homes and businesses. What made the show different from many other reality programs was that the work itself was real and often unpredictable. No two jobs were exactly alike. Viewers never knew what Billy would discover when he arrived at a property, and that uncertainty became a major part of the show's appeal. Of course, the pests and animals were only part of the attraction. Billy himself quickly became one of the most recognizable personalities on reality television. He didn't look like the typical pest control technician. While most people in the industry dressed in standard uniforms, Billy stood out immediately. His appearance became one of his trademarks. Dressed almost entirely in black, often wearing leather clothing, large silver jewelry, metal studs, and spikes, he looked more like a rock musician than someone responding to animal removal calls. Naturally, viewers were curious about the unusual look.
Billy, the main power of the show, with his signature black leather jacket, sunglasses and spiky hairstyle, made the toughest of pests tremble in fear, eccentric and rock star style of dealing with pesky critters.
Billy often explained on camera that his clothing choices were not just about style. According to him, the thick leather provided an extra layer of protection against bites, scratches, and stings. The metal spikes and studs, meanwhile, served another purpose. He believed they made animals more hesitant to attack because the sharp-looking accessories created an intimidating appearance. Whether viewers agreed with that reasoning or not, there was no denying that it made him memorable. But Billy was never the only star of the show. One of the reasons audiences connected so strongly with the series was the involvement of the entire Bretherton family. Unlike many reality programs that focus on a single personality, Billy the Exterminator gave viewers a look at a family business where everyone played an important role. Billy's father, known to fans as Big Bill, regularly appeared throughout the series. His mother, Donnie, served as the company's dispatcher and helped coordinate operations from behind the scenes. While she rarely accompanied the team on field assignments, she remained a key part of the business and the show's family dynamic. Billy's brother, Ricky, also became a familiar face to viewers. Working alongside Billy on many of the company's most difficult jobs, Ricky often found himself facing the same dangerous situations, from swarming insects to aggressive animals. The brothers developed a natural on-screen chemistry that became one of the series' strengths. The show also featured other employees and family members over the years. Ricky's then-wife, Pam, appeared during the early stages of the series before eventually leaving during the production of the first season. These personal relationships helped make the show feel less like a traditional business program and more like a look inside a real family trying to work together under stressful circumstances. Another reason the show stood out was Billy's approach to wildlife. Unlike many pest control companies that focused solely on elimination, Billy often preferred to relocate animals whenever possible. Throughout the series, he regularly explained that many creatures people feared were simply trying to survive. If a safe alternative existed, he usually attempted to remove and relocate the animal rather than destroy it. This approach earned him respect from many viewers who appreciated his concern for wildlife. Over the years, viewers watched the team deal with venomous creatures, aggressive swarms of insects, and animals capable of causing serious injuries. Ricky, in particular, experienced countless bee and wasp stings during his years working in the field. According to stories shared on the show, he eventually developed an allergy after being stung so many times, highlighting just how risky the job could be. As the series grew in popularity, Billy became more than just a pest control expert. He became one of A&E's most recognizable reality television personalities. Fans admired his confidence, his unusual style, his knowledge, and the close-knit family operation that stood behind him. For several years, everything seemed to be working perfectly. The ratings were strong, viewers were loyal, and Billy's star continued to rise. But behind the scenes, trouble was beginning to build, and the success that had turned him into a television sensation would soon face its biggest test. But could the success that made Billy famous survive family conflict? Let's find out. The family rift that ended everything.
Billy the Exterminator, whose real name is William Bretherton, and his wife Mary were busted by police after they said the couple had synthetic marijuana in their hotel room at the Louisiana boardwalk back in April.
While Billy's arrest created headlines and sparked public controversy, many longtime fans believed that it wasn't the real reason Billy the Exterminator came to an end. The bigger story was happening behind closed doors, away from television cameras and far from public view. In fact, this chapter may be the most important piece of the puzzle. Unlike the arrest, which was covered by news outlets and discussed publicly, the problems that emerged within the Bretherton family remained largely private. Very little information was ever officially released, and Billy himself rarely spoke about the details. He chose not to air family disagreements in public, leaving fans with more questions than answers. But even though the specifics were never fully explained, the results were impossible to ignore. At some point following the legal troubles and the attention that followed, serious tensions developed within the family business. Whatever happened behind the scenes was significant enough to change the course of Billy's life completely. The man who had spent years building Vexon alongside his family suddenly stepped away from it. And he didn't simply move across town or relocate to a nearby city. Billy left Louisiana altogether. Instead of remaining in Benton, where Vexon had become a successful family business and the foundation of a hit television show, he relocated to Illinois. It was a dramatic change that put hundreds of miles between him and the people who had been at the center of both his personal life and his television career. To outsiders, the move may have seemed like just another relocation. In reality, it changed everything. The reason is simple. Billy the Exterminator was never just about pest control. The series wasn't built around a company name alone. It wasn't built around a location by itself either. What made the show work was the combination of all its moving parts. Viewers tuned in to watch Billy. They tuned in to see his interactions with Ricky, Big Bill, Donnie, and the rest of the family. They watched because the family dynamics felt genuine, sometimes funny, sometimes frustrating, but always real. The show's identity depended on that unique formula. Take away one piece, and the entire structure becomes unstable. Take away Billy himself, and there was almost nothing left to build around. Once he separated from Vexon and moved to another state, the core concept that had carried the series for years suddenly disappeared. The location was gone. The family business was gone. The relationships that had driven so many episodes were gone. From a production standpoint, A&E faced a problem that couldn't easily be solved. Unlike a scripted television series, reality television can't simply replace a lead character and continue as if nothing happened. Audiences form connections with real people. They become invested in those personalities and the relationships surrounding them. Recasting the role wasn't an option because Billy wasn't playing a character. He was the show. The network couldn't hire another exterminator and expect viewers to see it as the same series, nor could they recreate years of family history that had developed naturally on camera. By the time Billy left Louisiana, reality itself had already done what television executives eventually had to do. The show's foundation had collapsed. In many ways, the cancellation had already happened before it was ever formally acknowledged. The family business that viewers had followed week after week no longer existed in the same form. The central figure had moved away. The supporting cast had become scattered. The setting that audiences recognized was no longer available. There simply wasn't a show left to film. Ricky Bretherton later attempted to keep some of that spirit alive. In 2015, he launched a YouTube series called Billy the Exterminators. The project gave fans another glimpse into the pest control world they had enjoyed on television and offered Ricky a chance to step into a larger role. But the results never matched the success of the original series. The show produced only 16 episodes and struggled to gain significant attention. While Ricky had always been an important part of the formula, viewers quickly discovered that the chemistry that made Billy the Exterminator successful could not be easily recreated. The original magic had depended on the entire family dynamic, and most importantly, on Billy's larger-than-life presence. Without him, the formula simply wasn't the same. What makes the ending even stranger is how quietly it happened. There was no emotional farewell episode, no final family gathering, no official goodbye to the fans who had supported the show for years. Season 6 aired, and then everything simply stopped. For many viewers, it felt as though the series had vanished overnight. One week it was there. The next, there were no new episodes, no major announcements, and no clear explanation about what had happened. That silence became part of the mystery. Years later, fans are still searching for answers because they never received a proper ending. The show that had once been one of A&E's popular reality programs didn't conclude with a dramatic finale. Instead, it faded away as real-life events pulled apart the very foundation on which it had been built. By that point, A&E was left with a difficult reality. There was no longer a location, a supporting cast, or a production setup capable of continuing the series in its original form. The show wasn't killed by a single event. It was slowly dismantled piece by piece until there was nothing left to hold it together. What really happened behind closed doors, no one would explain. Keep watching to find out. Why A&E chose silence. One of the most frustrating parts of the Billy the Exterminator story for longtime fans is that they never received a clear answer from A&E. There was no official farewell special, no detailed press release, and no public explanation breaking down exactly why one of the network's popular reality shows suddenly disappeared. Instead, the series simply ended. For viewers who had spent years following Billy, his family, and the day-to-day challenges at VexCon, the silence was confusing. Naturally, people began filling in the blanks themselves. Rumors spread online. Fans speculated about what had happened behind the scenes. Yet despite all the questions, the network remained largely quiet. The interesting thing is that this silence was probably not an accident. In reality, television, networks often face a difficult choice when a show runs into problems. They can openly address the situation and risk drawing more attention to the controversy. Or they can quietly move on and hope the story fades away over time. More often than not, networks choose the second option. That appears to be exactly what happened here. By the time Billy the Exterminator was reaching its end, several complicated issues were already surrounding the show. Billy's arrest had generated unwanted headlines. Reports of tensions within the Bretherton family had begun surfacing. The family business that served as the foundation of the series was changing. From a public relations standpoint, none of these developments were particularly attractive for a network trying to protect its brand. If A&E had released a detailed statement discussing Billy's legal troubles or the apparent breakdown within the family business, they would have been giving those stories even more attention. Every interview, article, or press release would have kept the controversy alive. Instead, the network took the easier path. They simply stopped talking about it. To many fans, that may have seemed careless. But from a business perspective, it was likely a calculated decision. Silence allowed the network to distance itself from the situation without creating a larger media storm. The timing of everything is also important to understand. Around 2012 and 2013, A&E was going through a major shift. The network's priorities were changing rapidly, and one show in particular was dominating the conversation. Duck Dynasty had become an absolute phenomenon. The series wasn't just successful, it was one of the biggest reality television hits in America. Ratings were soaring, merchandise was everywhere, and the show was attracting audiences on a scale that few networks ever experience. Suddenly, A&E had a franchise that was bringing in enormous attention and revenue. Naturally, much of the network's focus shifted toward protecting and expanding its biggest success stories.
A lot of reality shows out there. You guys have hit the jackpot with this one. People love your show. It's all about how you started a duck dynasty. It's all about a multi-million-dollar business you guys created.
That doesn't mean Billy the Exterminator wasn't valuable. The show had built a loyal fan base and consistently delivered solid ratings. It was a dependable performer that occupied a unique place within the network's lineup. However, there is a significant difference between being a successful show and being a network's top priority. When production complications began piling up, Billy the Exterminator found itself in a difficult position. If the same challenges had affected one of A&E's biggest flagship programs, the network might have invested substantial time, money, and resources into finding a solution. Executives may have worked harder to keep production alive or reimagine the format, but television is ultimately a business. Networks constantly evaluate where to invest their energy, and not every show receives the same level of support. When Billy relocated, family relationships became strained, and the original structure of the series began falling apart. A&E faced a decision. Should they spend significant resources trying to rebuild something that no longer existed naturally? Or should they move on? In the end, they chose to move on. This is actually more common in television than many viewers realize. Fans often assume a show ends because ratings collapse, or because executives suddenly decide they no longer like it. Sometimes that happens. But many shows disappear for a much simpler reason. The circumstances that made them possible no longer exist. In the case of Billy the Exterminator, the show's success relied on a very specific combination of factors. It needed Billy, it needed Vexcon, it needed the Bretherton family working together, it needed Louisiana. Once those pieces were separated, recreating the show became far more difficult than simply renewing another season. The foundation had already cracked. A&E could have attempted to rebuild it, but rebuilding reality television is often much harder than creating it in the first place. The chemistry, relationships, and personalities that viewers connected with had developed naturally over many years. Those things cannot easily be manufactured. So rather than rebuilding, the network allowed the series to quietly fade away. For fans, the loss was noticeable. There have been other pest control and wildlife removal programs since then. Some have featured experienced professionals. Others have showcased dangerous animal encounters and unusual infestations. Yet many viewers argue that none of them managed to capture the same balance that made Billy the Exterminator special. The show wasn't successful simply because of the animals. It worked because it combined expertise, family relationships, humor, unpredictability, and Billy's unmistakable personality into something that felt genuine. Viewers weren't just watching pest control. They were watching a family navigate challenges together while tackling some of the strangest jobs imaginable. When the show disappeared, that unique formula disappeared with it. A&E may have moved on to newer projects and bigger franchises, but the story didn't end there. Because while the network was ready to close the chapter, Billy himself wasn't quite finished writing the next one. After the show ended, what came next for Billy? Let's find out. A brief return to television. Despite disappearing from American television, Billy Bretherton wasn't completely done with the spotlight. After several years away from cameras, he was given an unexpected opportunity to return. In 2016, Canadian network CMT approached him with a new idea. Instead of returning to Louisiana, Billy would take his skills north of the border and tackle pest and animal control jobs in Canada. The result was Billy Goes North, a 12-episode series that premiered on CMT Canada in 2016. The concept was simple, but it worked. Fans who discovered the show quickly realized that Billy hadn't lost the qualities that made him a reality TV favorite in the first place. He was still energetic, knowledgeable, and completely comfortable in front of the camera. Whether he was dealing with wildlife in Louisiana or Canada, his personality remained the driving force behind the show. The series proved that the original formula could succeed in a different setting. Viewers responded positively, and the show demonstrated that Billy's television presence was just as strong as ever. A&E eventually took notice. In 2017, the network repackaged Billy Goes North and aired it in the United States. For some audiences, it was presented as the 7th and final season of Billy the Exterminator. Fans who had spent years wondering what happened were thrilled to see Billy back on screen, even if the revival felt somewhat disconnected from where the original series had ended. Unfortunately, the return was short-lived. No additional seasons followed, and Billy quietly stepped away from television once again. Yet Billy Goes North proved one thing. The opportunity may have passed, but Billy's talent for reality television never disappeared. So, what do you think about Billy's arrest? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, this was never just about an arrest or a canceled TV show. It was about fame, family, and the events that changed Billy Bretherton's life forever. Though his television journey ended quietly, fans still remember him today. If you enjoyed this documentary, like, subscribe, and stay tuned.